the best response you can have to a payoff in a thriller is someone goes, "Oh, right, I forgot. Of course, I should have."
On Story offers a look inside the creative process from today's leading writers, creators, and filmmakers. All of our content is recorded live at Austin Film Festival and our year-round events. To view previous episodes, visit onstory.tv. On Story is brought to you in part by the Alice Clayburgh Reynolds Foundation, a Texas family providing innovative funding since 1979. From Austin Film Festival, this is On Story, a look inside the creative process from today's leading writers, creators, and filmmakers. This week's On Story, Academy Award-nominated filmmaker and actor, Greta Gerwig.
You know, acting is listening, but I think for me, writing is listening too. I spend a lot of time listening to what my characters are trying to tell me about who they are. And they're always telling you. And it's the mysterious part of writing where you have all this craft and you spend all this time making it as good as it can be. And then at the same time, your unconscious knows more than you do. And you have to kind of keep that channel open.
In this episode, Greta Gerwig talks about taking the leap to write and direct her own film, the critically acclaimed Lady Bird.
Lady Bird, is that your given name?
Yeah.
Why is it in quotes?
I gave it to myself. It's given to me by me.
Lady Bird always says that she lives on the wrong side of the tracks, but I always thought that that was like a metaphor. But there are actual train tracks.
What she did was very baller. It was very anarchist.
Put the magazine back!
She has a big heart, your mom.
She's warm, but she's also kind of scary.
You can't be scary and warm.
I think you can. Your mom is.
So, you're not interested in any Catholic colleges?
No way. I want schools like Yale, but not Yale because I probably couldn't get in.
You definitely couldn't get in.
Does Mom hate me?
If you're tired, we can sit down.
I'm not tired.
You were dragging your feet.
You are so infuriating.
Please stop yelling.
I'm not yelling. Oh, it's perfect.
Do you love it?
You both have such strong personalities.
Welcome, thank you. We really love having you here at the festival.
Thank you.
We're thrilled to be actually screening Lady Bird on opening night.
Me too.
Although I will tell you, it's a little confusing in Austin to be screening a film called Lady Bird.
Yes, I know. I feel like this is the worst in Texas
Yes.
of anywhere, the Lady Bird thing. I was in the restaurant this morning and they actually had an omelet called the Lady Bird omelet. And I was like, oh no, right, this is a whole different thing here.
It is, and literally, they had a place right around the corner, and
Yeah.
the lake now is named Lady Bird Lake.
Oh,
and-
really?
Yeah, they renamed the lake in town Lady Bird Lake. So,
I always love the name. I mean, obviously, I think, I don't know, it's somehow beautiful and whimsical, but also has character. You know, so it's great. It's a great
Did you
name.
actually call yourself that in high school?
Oh my God, no, I never called myself another name. But people always think I must have been like Lady Bird, but actually I was the opposite. I never dyed my hair bright red. I never made anyone call me by a different name. I didn't really break the rules. I was a very kind of well-behaved, people-pleasing sort of kid. I really colored inside the lines. So I think in some ways, writing this script and writing this character and inventing this character was a way for me to explore something that I wasn't able to do as a person. And I think, you know, she's a flawed heroine, but she's certainly someone I really admire. She's courageous and out there and kind of distinctly herself, even if she's lying about who she is. I like that about her.
Darlene, can you excuse us?
Darlene, stay.
Why aren't you in Algebra 2?
I switched sections.
Why?
Aren't Jenna and Kyle enough? I'm sorry that you're jealous.
Jenna is a moron, you know.
She's not. She's in AP Calculus.
She's a moron in a deeper sense.
You don't even know her.
Miss Patty assigned you a role, by the way. You just never showed up to claim it.
What role?
The Tempest.
There is no role of the Tempest.
It is the titular role.
No, it's a made-up thing, so we all can participate.
You can't do anything unless you're the center of attention, can you?
Yeah, well, you know your mom's. They're fake, totally fake.
She made one bad decision at 19.
2 bad decisions.
So it was kind of an alter ego
Yeah,
exercise.
or like yeah. No, I mean it's hard. She kind of sprung from my imagination, in a way, fully formed. I mean, people always say like, you know, acting is listening, but I think for me, writing is listening too. I spend a lot of time listening to what my characters are trying to tell me about who they are, and they're always telling you. And it's the mysterious part of writing where you have all this craft and you spend all this time making it as good as it can be, and then at the same time, your unconscious knows more than you do, and you have to kind of keep that channel open.
So you started out really in acting, but you've written 10 scripts, I think, right, now at this point?
Yeah, no, actually I started out, I mean, I didn't really start out doing any one thing at all because I fell in love with theater when I was young, and the way into theater was you acted and stuff, and then when I was in college, I found a few playwriting teachers who really encouraged me, and what I wanted to do was be a playwright, and so I was writing plays all throughout college, and then when I was graduating from college, I applied to MFA programs in playwriting, and I got rejected from all 3 of them. So, and at that point, I'd also fallen in love with cinema, and I had started falling in with a group of people who were making these really low-budget DIY kind of movies, and it felt like, for whatever reason, theater was closed to me and movies were more open to me. And it's not like I had a sense that I would be able to make my living doing it. It's just I loved doing it. And it was a way to continue to be creative and explore things. And then I started working as an actor more regularly. But it wasn't really a case of acting was first and then writing and now directing. It was more like I was kind of doing it all, and then writing was always a big deal, and then it was like I kind of was in the position of, anyway you'll have me, I'll do this, and I was very lucky that it worked out the way it did.
Well, one of the things, we actually have Kenneth Lonergan coming in this year, which is pretty exciting for us. Yeah, and I literally just finished watching all of his films to do an interview with him, and then went to Lady Bird at the press screening. And one of the things that he does that's so amazing is have those scenes where like the emotion just comes out, you know, of the film almost, which is amazing. And I have to say, in Lady Bird, I felt like that happened too, you know, and I loved.
Kenny is one of my favorite writers. Like, also his plays meant so much to me when I was particularly in undergrad. Like, I'd never read his plays, and somebody gave me This Is Our Youth, and I read it, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, this is exactly what I want. If I could write like anyone, I would want to write like this. And I just understood it. I just understood the rhythm and the storytelling, and sort of read everything I could get my hands on that he'd written. And of course I loved You Can Count on Me, but like the development of story is almost happening underneath the surface was something that I totally loved. And the way his characters, you know, the way they use language is character. I mean, that was right up my alley. And I mean, he's always been somebody I've looked up to, and probably because of that emulated. And so I'm glad you felt that way.
Totally.
He's really, honestly, as a dramatist, he's just one of my absolute tops.
Well, it felt like it did feel like a play at some points,
yeah,
but it also felt like film, and it was that's so beautiful to be able to achieve that, and also with so much humor. I mean, it's just so funny.
Oh, I wouldn't say anything good happened to you in New York.
Are you kidding?
No.
I was discovered by Mr. Gordon. He was a friend of Mrs.
Well, what it. People discover me every time I go out, but I don't think anything of it.
He went to pieces, Mr. Max Gordon went out.
Oh, not Max Gordon. He never went to pieces in his life. He did not. A very
Now, what was the woman's name? She gave you the letter. Mrs. Hitchcock.
I
She was
can't go
Ruby
back to
Chapman's
ancient history.
partner.
How can you remember so long? Now I'll have to get drunk, Edie. I'll have to start drinking. I can't take it. Oh, she'll make a drunkard out of her mother.
What crackers do you want?
I think the best mother-daughter movie is actually the documentary by the Maisels.
The Grey Garden?
Yeah, the doc. Yeah. I mean, I've never seen that. That is that relationship, like this sort of circling the same topics again and again. You're sort of having the same fights, but in a new form, and the way that they're kind of like mirror images of each other, but also different. Like, it is a great mother-daughter movie, even though, I mean, it's all this other stuff. It's about mental illness and agoraphobia and lots of things, and about, you know, not living in the past and everything else. But it is this beautiful, complicated portrait of these two women in their relationship. I think so often, you know, mother-daughter movies kind of fall into something where particularly the mother is either a monster or an angel. And I think the reality is most mothers I know, and at this point it's like my friends who are mothers, it's like this combination of like, your heart is obviously you love them more than anything. You'd step in front of a bus for them. And also you're going to say the wrong thing, and you can't help it. And that's just the reality of it. And it's like in the same thing with like Lady Bird. You know, sometimes she is such a jerk, and sometimes she's transcendent and totally empathetic with the world. And I think so often, particularly for female characters, we don't like them to have many colors, and we're not used to seeing it. So yeah, it's completely underrepresented.
I want to go where culture is,
But
like
how
New
in the
York,
world did I raise such a
or at least
snob?
Connecticut or New Hampshire, where writers live in the
Get
woods.
into those schools anyway.
Mom.
You can't even pass your driver's test.
Because you wouldn't let me practice
The way
enough.
that you work, or the way that you don't work, you're not even worth state tuition, Christine.
My name is Lady Bird.
Well, actually, it's not, and it's ridiculous.
Call me
because your
Lady
name
Bird
is
like
Christine.
you said you would.
You should just go to City College. You know, with your work ethic, just go to City College and then to jail, and then back to City College, and then maybe you'd learn to pull yourself up and not expect everybody to do everything.
I mean, my mother is not like the character of Marion, just like I'm not like the character of Lady Bird. But the core of it, I certainly gave her hell, and I feel just so much guilt about that now. And you know, I feel like my entire adult life is just looking back and realizing she was right about everything, which is inevitable. But I mean, I told her that I was writing the script, and she was very like aware of the whole process, and I showed her and my dad and my brother and my sister, and before anyone else saw it, and they obviously know how much of it is fiction, which is like 95% of it, but they also recognize, you know, some core truths. And there's a line where Larry says to Lady Bird when they're talking about her mom, "You both have such strong personalities." And my mother was sitting next to me in the screening and said, "Yes, yes."
Happy birthday to you.
You remembered.
You're my only daughter. Well, Shelley too, kind of.
Thanks.
Make a wish.
Are you and Mom gonna get a divorce over this?
No, we can't afford to.
Dad.
I'm kidding, no. I love your mom.
Does Mom hate me?
You both have such strong personalities. She doesn't know how to help you, and it frustrates her.
I wish she'd talk to me.
She will. I know. Happy 18.
Well, so I'm curious why you've written a number of scripts, and why you chose this one to direct. I mean, you've worked with, you know, the Duplass brothers and Noah Baumbach and Whit Stillman and so many great directors. And what was the what was it about this one that made you take that step to go all the way?
Well, I mean, I've always wanted to be a writer-director, ever since I got rejected from playwriting school. But I thought that because I didn't go to film school, I really had to learn on the set and learn by doing all these different jobs. And I had the great privilege of being particularly an actor on different people's sets. So I got to see how all of these different great directors and cinematographers and set decorators and costume designers, how they all worked and what they did and and then the post-production process and editing and finishing the film. And I mean, for the most part, most directors only really know what they do. They're never on another person's set, which is interesting. They don't know how anybody else does it, which you don't think about, but I do, because Noah Baumbach is both my partner in life, and he's been my writing partner. And I'd always come home from people's sets, and he'd be like, "Well, how did they do that? And then what did Mike Mills do? And then what did this?" And I was like, "Oh, because you don't know. You just know what you do," which is I don't know. I find that so interesting. But so I had all these sort of experiences and all this knowledge to draw on that. Well, when I finished writing this script, I thought, okay, I think this is good, and I think it's sort of now or never. Like, if you want to do this, this is the one to do it with. You're going to learn more, but you're not going to learn more by not doing it. You have to go jump off the cliff and figure it out. And it was, in some ways, it was an experience of really almost instantly feeling like, oh, yes, this is perfect. I know, I both love doing this, and I also really know what it is and what the job is and how to do it. But, I probably could have done it earlier, but then maybe I wouldn't be the director I am. So
how was it then turning this over? Because that's every screenwriter's stories are personal. Yeah. But this one's particularly personal, even if it is your alter ego. So now you turn it over to another actress, so a craft you're also incredibly familiar with. How did that process work for the two of you?
Well, for me, the biggest part of my job as a director, particularly if you're a writer-director, is you give that character to that person. When they are cast, you give them the little candle that's that person's soul, and you say, now it's yours. I don't know more than you. You are the keeper of that person, and you really can't interfere with that process. And it's like, I'll give direction, and I'll obviously have work with the actors and get the scenes to where I think that they're good, and I'm involved. But I know I don't hold the key to the character, and I almost have very literal conversations with my actors about that, because I think, like you're saying, if it's personal and if you wrote it and you're directing it, there's a tendency, I think, for actors to feel like they don't want to take over too much, or they're worried that you'll keep interfering. And so I very much say, I give this to you. And I mean, for me, the best feeling I've ever had is the first experience I ever had of this was when I was in college, and I had written a play, and my first play, and I was standing in the back of the theater, and there were other actors saying the lines, and it was a simultaneous feeling of total control and a total lack of control. And I love that combination. I love feeling like it's out of my hands, and also these are all my words. And it's sort of intoxicating, and I feel like it has to exist in that paradox. And particularly on a film set, it's like, this is my vision, these are my words, this is my dream. I'm realizing every part of it, and it's also not mine anymore. It belongs to them. And I think, in so many ways, filmmaking is a collaborative art. It's the most collaborative art. So the entire process after you have the script is about giving it to each person and saying, you are the storyteller of this movie for what your job is. So whether that's Saoirse Ronan being Lady Bird, or whether that's a gaffer shaping the light, they're the storyteller of the light in the movie. And I feel like they need to feel that that's their corner of the film they're responsible for.
And so do you see yourself now having the space to write a play and go that direction, even though you got rejected from school?
I mean, I'd love to write a play, but now I feel like I'm so inside the world of cinematic storytelling. I think, you improve at what you do. And for better or worse, I've been making movies now for 11 years, and I've gotten pretty good at it.
I'd say pretty good, yeah.
And so I feel like, in a way, I mean, it's not that I'll never write a play. And obviously, like, Kenneth Lonergan goes between writing screenplays and making movies and also writing plays. And similarly, Tracy Letts has done both. And he's now a very close friend to me. So I know that there's a way to do both. But I think at this moment, I feel very inside of what it takes to tell a cinematic story. And I don't want to disturb that just yet. But I love theater. I mean, theater is my first love, and cinema is my adult love.
Well, I loved your casting choices, though, in the movie.
Thank
I thought
you.
Tracy Letts was just another.
I know.
He was sort of the perfect dad.
Oh my God, he's such an angel.
Yeah, but your mom too. I mean,
everyone.
It just everybody seems so magically together in there.
Do you think I like driving that car around?
No.
Do you?
No.
Do you think I like working double shifts at the psych hospital?
No.
You needed to go to the Catholic school because your brother saw somebody knifed in front of him at the public school. Is that what you want? Larry, what are you doing on the computer?
Nothing.
You think your dad and I don't know how ashamed that you are of us? Your dad knows. Your dad knows why you ask him to drop you off a block away from school every day.
Dad, I didn't mean to.
You made him feel horrible. Horrible.
I'm sorry.
Do you know
Marianne,
that?
you didn't have to bring
No,
that
Larry,
up.
you can't just be the nice guy. She has to know. She has to know how you feel. Otherwise, she's just going to think she can say anything at all, and nobody ever gets hurt. Wrong side of the tracks.
I didn't mean it that way. It was a joke.
Yeah, it's just a joke. Mom and Dad, they don't care. We didn't think we'd be in this house for 25 years. We thought we would have moved someplace better. Whatever we give you, it's never enough. It's never enough.
It is enough.
Do you have any idea what it costs to raise you and how much you're just throwing away every day?
A lot of the actors have, either very extensive stage backgrounds or that, that's a very deep part of who they are. And I think one of the reasons I like working with actors from the theater is that they do have such a respect for the words of the script. And they don't have a sense of, I'm going to get in there and improv my way through this scene. They feel like those are the lines and I'm going to learn them and say them because that's what people do who are actors. And, and they do have, I think theater does teach you how to really work it. You really learn how to break apart a script and find each moment and be very clear about everything, and the ability, they have the muscle built up that they can repeat, and that they just have a skill set. So, Tracy, Laurie, Stephen McKinley Henderson, and Lois Smith are just veterans in that way. And Timothy Chalamet went to the High School of Performing Arts, and I saw him in an off-Broadway play. Beanie Feldstein is now on Broadway in Hello, Dolly. Saoirse Ronan was in The Crucible. And she did that after I cast her, but they all have this extensive experience of what it means to do a part 8 days a week. And that builds muscle that's no other acting experience can.
You've been watching a conversation with Greta Gerwig on OnStory. OnStory is part of a growing number of programs in Austin Film Festival's OnStory project, including the OnStory PBS series, now streaming online, the OnStory radio program and podcast in collaboration with Public Radio International, and the OnStory book series available on Amazon. To find out more about OnStory and Austin Film Festival, visit onstory.tv or austinfilmfestival.com.
The best response you can have to a payoff in a thriller is someone goes, "Oh, right, I forgot. Of course, I should have."
On Story offers a look inside the creative process from today's leading writers, creators, and filmmakers. All of our content is recorded live at Austin Film Festival and our year-round events. To view previous episodes, visit onstory.tv.